Hello and welcome to Upload,
a podcast by those who upload for those who want to.
or who already do.
And anyone else for that matter.
My name is Lionheart and I've been creating content for over a decade.
And my name's Midgeman and I've been trying to create content for almost a decade.
Together with some of our friends and fellow content creators, we're going to be exploring the great big world of content creation.
We'll be looking into the serious topics that face content creators today.
Because if someone said that to me like in person, or said that kind of stuff to me, you know, IRL, I wouldn't take it. So why would I take it like online? Why would I hide aspects of sort of my identity?
As well as some less serious topics.
I've been blindsided by the fact that one of your old live streams is called Suck My Missile for like the last
Sorry,
10
what?
minutes.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Upload.
Hello and welcome to Upload, the content creation podcast for those who upload, those who want to, and everyone else for that matter. My name is Midgeman.
And I'm Lionheart.
And before we get on with today's episode, remember to like, rate, and do all those things you can to support us.
Turn on the auto-downloaders!
Turn on the auto-downloaders!
I was waiting!
You were waiting, and it was great because I was about to screw up that line and you cut in. I was like,
I'm going to save him. Boom!
You did. And if you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can do so by contacting us through either the comment section on whatever platforms. I believe there's a comment section now on Spotify as well, so engage with us there. And also via our email, hello@uploadpodcast.co.uk.
We're so lonely.
Well, you say that. We've got an email this morning.
Ooh! Do tell.
We've got an email this morning that I'm going to get onto before we get onto the rest of the podcast, because some of it kind of leans in a little bit and some of it is questions I think we've covered. This is from someone that collectively we've both talking to in your Twitch chat whenever we bring up Upload that are enjoying it. This is from Spooderman. They say, hey Lionheart and Midgeman, you can call me Spooder. Hello Spooder. Thank you for emailing in. First of all, I'm delighted that you have both begun this podcast. I am only a few episodes in at the time of this email and I've already learned so much from you both. If you need any more encouragement to continue this podcast for another 600 to 700 episodes, I'm more than happy to give it. Don't worry, we didn't need convincing.
No, this is pretty much almost like, with a few exceptions, what we're cranking at least like one a Thursday at the moment. And how many Thursdays do we have for the rest of our lives? Many. Yeah, a lot. It's just like not to turn out like dark. Be like next Thursday, hit by a bus. No.
Oh gosh.
No. Look both ways. Okay, remember the hedgehog song?
Oh my god, I remember the hedge.
Because you know the road well, and you never can tell. You gotta be wise, or you could be surprised. Splat. I'm pretty sure there was like an adult rated one where the hedgehog gets like mown down by a bus, which I'm not laughing about. But
do you also remember the King of the Road?
Yeah, I think that was the original one, and then they did like the follow on. Yeah, that was like the full that was the Highways Agency, wasn't it, with their big marketing push?
Yeah, nobody outside of the UK of a certain generation is gonna understand that reference. Anyway, I've followed Lionheart for years after Creative Assembly created Total War 3 Kingdoms. Because I love Dynasty Warriors games in the Three Kingdoms era. I remember growing up heavily on Dynasty Warriors 3 and Dynasty Warriors 5 Empires. They were my jams.
I have still to this day never played any of them.
We will play a Dynasty Warriors game. It was...
Well, I mean, that's why when Three Kings came out, I was like, so who's Alubu, South Thao, Liu Bei, like, Dongzhou, like, cool, you look all colourful and over-the-top characters, which, that's what we're going for with Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Wan Xu's army still has not moved. What? No one's going to get these references, but Dynasty Warriors 3 had some amazing cutscenes, and I've always enjoyed watching his content and seeing how he's created his success. By extension, Lionheart has led me to Midgeman, and his amazing charisma on this podcast and sharing his own content creation journey as well. Oh, very nice. This is like the what's it called? Ego inflation here. This is why I picked this email. You're a dynamic duo, and even just having the podcast of a content creator rants is a pleasure to listen to. That's nice. But here comes the actual questions. Thank you so much so far as well. As a family man with a wife and kids, I often struggle to try and make a success out of content creation whilst balancing the needs IRL. So the advice you have given on this level has also been brilliant, and understandably, I can relate to it. I think one of the biggest bugbears I find with content creation is editing. Sometimes it feels like the video can only be as good as the edits you put in, but it's hard to decide how much work to put into this area and how much time to spend on fancy editing software, if any. Another challenge alongside this is limited to being with your versus life obligations, and other content creators often say that this is where you have to spend a considerable amount of time anyway. So not sure if this is true. So what I'm getting thus far is kind of they're asking, how do you balance extended time tasks such as editing and fitting it into the work-life balance?
Yeah. It's not just some like there's elements of content creation which you can dip into shortly, but when if you're doing something highly edited, which I kind of think broadly most creators are going to lean into doing more editing than not, just because you need, like with editing, you can hopefully find unique ways to make your content stand out over somebody else. Because if you're all playing the same game, there's only a finite number of let's plays broadly. Okay, personality and charisma and how you set something up, how you specifically go about doing a specific let's play or a challenge is going to factor in. But otherwise, probably the main differentiator is going to be how you edit and your style and how you bring yourself across that way. And that's where there's probably a lot of room still to enter the scene as a brand new creator, right? And to grow.
And Spooder here is asking, so if you happen to be looking for more podcast ideas, I would love to hear an episode about what you both do for editing and what it was like at the time when you weren't able to pay for an editor to assist you. You still don't have an editor to assist you. You should do it. I do. And excitingly, the episode after this one, Spooder, we're going to have both the editors on. So the editor of this podcast and another. So Dan and Foxy, we'll cover on that with them. But also, they just said, if nothing else, I wanted to send this email to praise you both for starting out this podcast and wish you every success. Thank you for taking the time to read the email. Thank you for sending it in.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously, we love it. It's like, this is, in a way, we almost want this to be as much a you guys' podcast as it is ours. Like, you guys just feeding us little bits. You guys hopefully know by now, we only need a few breadcrumbs of something loosely based around what we actually want to talk about, and we'll go off for a whole episode about it. Like, and then we'll find, road traffic safety videos to probably go through at some point. I feel like we should do a country review of some, like the top like 10 or something like that.
That will be one of our bonus episodes.
Total tangent, but it's all part, again, this is all part of how we're going about creating content now. And, you're looking at two gaming creators branching out into all various different things.
I will say my quick and dirty answer, though, for how do I do it with a life balance? I didn't. Simple as my editing, especially with my editing style back when I was doing, say, like my Armor 3 edits or anything that was like heavy edits, they were like, is what I would do. I would hyperfixate on the edit and edit for about 16 to 20 hours straight, maybe with a sleep in between. But that was unobtainable, and it is why I currently, even though I don't make a profit from content creation, I'm still paying for my editors because it allows me to do my normal work within balance and keep a bit of a work-life balance whilst continuing this, what is essentially an expensive hobby for me.
So much of that, but the thing is, you're learning so many skills. It's also bringing you in other opportunities, other work that is profitable. Content creation doesn't have to be the destination. It can be the vehicle that gets you, because a lot of people at content creation go, the destination is making a living out of this, right? It's like, no. It's learning the skills. It's networking. It's, I know so many people that have started off doing this and then they were like, oh, I'm going to be a full-time streamer and stuff. And then I'm like, a few months later, I'm like, oh, what are you doing now? I'm working at a game studio. I got picked up by their team for this because they saw my stuff and they reached out, or I reached out because I was in. There's so many things you can branch off and do, or even retire from it all and go a totally different direction. And we'll probably come back to that a little bit later about exit plans.
Lionheart, that's the perfect segue to the main topic of this episode. Wow, would you look at that?
I was just going to break the nice flow, though, and come back and say that when you said that, you find that most of the time you don't have a work-life balance with like with that. Vast majority of content creators don't either. Like, it's not, if you have a decent balance,
lend us your secrets.
Not to say that people that feel they do have one, and like, no, not discrediting them, but I think actually some creators probably actually kind of almost kid themselves that they do have that balance, and actually still, because I think if you probably asked their partners or their family and said, do they have there's probably very few that would actually maybe even agree because it is still checking your phone out of hours. It's still responding to messages. It's still replying to emails. And yes, okay, that's a huge part of running your own business, that often this is what it turns into. But, you know, there isn't, you know, we always say, oh, we'll switch off. We don't actually. We put it onto a very broken standby mode, which is actually still on. Like you flip it to standby, but it doesn't stop the power draw. The power draw is still up. I think I've got a reasonable work-life balance. I don't have a good or even perfect one, but I don't think I have a bad one. My wife would probably say I've got a bad one, just because, again, like outside perspective looking in about the amount of time I spend doing this, there's been a fair few days recently where I've to put the kids to bed, gone downstairs, done the washing up, come back up, I'll jump back on my PC and spend a couple of hours prepping the videos edits for the next day. I am fortunate in that the vast majority of my editing is literally just kind of combing through and cutting out breaks and pauses and alerts and things like that, because I pretty much structure all my content as just a start to finish Let's Play. There's not a huge amount of heavy editing and, you know, additional assets to be created to put into it. That's just the style I've gone for. Lazy, basically. But it fits with how I want to create content, and I've Let's Plays certainly have dwindled. I think if you're already established, you can still survive in that niche and you can still grow in it. And I think even if you started out, you could still grow in it. You would just need to supplement it with additional edited content or other forms as well. Again, even if you just did Let's Plays, again, that whole satellite sequence that we say of posting everywhere else shorter versions, the hooks to draw people into the long. You basically want to put out the short stuff to be like, oh, that looks amazing. I want to. There's a full episode. Oh my days. I think as well, it's almost like a bit of a generational thing where we now have the kind of hype and sensationalism around like new seasons of stuff like House of the Dragon and things like that. You're like, oh my god, there's I can binge watch like 8 hours of this. Amazing. So if you find a creator that's uploaded like a really long thing, and you're like, oh my, and you enjoy it, then that's how you pull them into that bit, because they're like, great, I can watch 20 hours of content here.
I want to just actually deep onto that just a little bit with a fun fact that I found out recently. So you know how you see sometimes content that has been stolen on, say, TikTok or YouTube Shorts, where it's like, but it's spliced in with someone making eggs, or so it's like an interview.
Oh god, like doing like some wood carving or something like that. Yeah,
where it's like cut in half. So a creator who roughly got about 50,000 views on his shorts normally tested taking shots he'd already uploaded that had already done well at that and splicing it with fake other side content, still on his channels and everything. And he found that it increased the video reactions tenfold, and views and stuff. And he was starting to get like millions of views.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that this is the same thing. And he was like, I'm trying to nail down the reason. And my generic community hated this. People that I created content for on the regular hated this because they were like, can you just remove this? It's distracting from their thing, because their thing.
The other ones push discoverability more.
But because of how the algorithms work and they know that those videos do well, it often picks them up and pushes them. But also,
do they favor spliced content then higher in the algorithm? I guess maybe
the assessment of it was it's partially the human psyche. Now that we all recognize that when the spliced content occurs, it's normally been taken from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's the psyche of this is good enough to have been stolen.
Right, yeah. And they're making a point of like, it's good to be shown twice, basically. Huh. Sorry, I'm just going to go put myself in a little green screen, rewatching and reacting to my own like stuff in the bottom and just be like, let's watch me.
I mean, I'm not going to say that this is a certain way to get views, but I am going to test it on the upload TikTok.
Yeah.
I am legitimately I'm going to test it from today. I wanted to also chime in and say again, by the time this episode goes out, I forgot to update the intro. We should have a Discord server that will be available on our link profile, uploadpodcast.co.uk or doros.to/upload. Let's talk about the slightly. It's a topic that a lot of content creators face and are faced with, but don't often talk about. And it's something you're often asked about a lot, Lion, in your chat, which is like, how long do you see yourself doing this for? Especially in the hype of this year and the last 2 years of a lot of very, very prominent content creators, such as say Matt Pat or or, you know, other huge content creators taking a step back from their own creations, letting it either continue or letting it die and just retiring.
Arax Gaming, he stepped away. Yeah.
Some people have gone away and come back in their lifetimes. Like, what's our exit strategies? And now this is I know you've got like a more solid answer than I have, I think, on this.
I think becoming a dad has made me think about it more. And like, sometimes I end up bringing it up just because I don't know. I think I'm constantly like people asking me like, oh, how's the office, new office setup going? And I'm like, oh, you're doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I hope I'll be in there for a good number of years and stuff like that. And then I'm always like, but I don't know. Eventually it'll probably be dad's gaming room or, you know, just, but then I'm also like, well, if I'm still dipping in and out a few days a week to do some
dad's plastic crack den.
Yes, there is a dedicated plastic crack section in the. I did a TikTok actually last night. I was like, fuck, I need to get on, and I was like, before the plaster comes back tomorrow, I wanted to film one in the space before it was done, and I wanted to do more. I've got all the photos and all the videos, and it's probably going to be something that I'll get to after the fact. When it's finished, I'll start the whole, hey, I'm doing my office build journey. But, you know, it'll probably be the whole journey will start and finish within like 2 or 3 weeks of me posting videos about it, despite the fact that I'll have already been in there and it being finished. Fingers crossed by then.
We're doing an episode of upload from it, of course, as well.
Yes, we will. Yeah, we've got to christen it. I'm going to like build a little champagne bottle to smash on. Actually, maybe not, because I don't trust how strong the dodgy, cheap B&Q door that I've got on it, because it was the only one that was the right height, and without spending a lot of money on something else. Let's not break it on the door. It comes up either a lot of people asking about it, because I think it's. In a way, I feel like this is a question I've been asked a lot in my life, not just with content creation, but also because I studied history at uni. And a lot of people go, oh, you studied history, so you're going to be a teacher, right? Because that's the very narrow field that people think that if you have a history degree, that's all you can do with it. Something you, funnily enough, learn on a history degree, they have a postgraduate kind of like sub-series, of course. And I'll be right back. It turns out it's not a water leak, it's just grease. But it's not the seal going out the wall isn't properly sealed, so that's why it's all just coming out the sides of it, and making these stains down it, and we're like, is that water? And the last chap that came and looked at it, he was like, but there's 2 of them today, and they're like, no, it's grease and it's not sealed properly. We're gonna stain block it, paint it, reseal it. I was like, sweet. That's so the plumber's like, my work here is done. It's the making good guy now to fix it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's an
cool.
easy job. So like,
yeah, happy days.
That's
so
probably...
we're like, because this is the last job of our 2-year warranty, because that's now finished. But they were like, if it still happens after this, you've already flagged it, so you'll be able to do it. I mean, to be fair, their after sales warranty is pretty good. It's much better than Philips. Although I did claim a victory on that.
Oh yeah, do we want to do a Philips update? Let's quickly.
We should do an update. Yeah. What was I saying before? Because I want to finish my train of thought. Oh, history degree. Right. Yeah, we were talking about history. If I just come back on that very briefly, and then we'll like segue. We had this dedicated module during the history degree. I think it was in our 3rd year actually, and it was kind of like prepping you for life after uni with a history degree. And it was essentially this whole thing of everyone just thinks you're going to be a teacher. And it's like, nothing wrong with that. A lot of universities, especially that teach history, often you'll find they used to be teacher training colleges here in the UK. Winchester, where I went to, used to be one. Chichester used to be one, where you went.
Yes, it was. And it has a very good history degree as well.
If it ends in Itchester, there's probably a good.
Itchester turns you to a teacher. No, it didn't quite work.
I love my history. To be fair, yeah, full credit. My history teacher was the one that inspired me to want to go and study history at uni and do more, because he was so passionate about it and brought it to life in a way that I'd never really had before.
My history teacher was the same. She was amazing.
And those are the people that you want teaching, because yeah, they inspire. But I digress. That course was all about, hey, you learn critical thinking, you learn analysis work, you learn how to give a concise summary of a lot of different information. And those are just broadly, even just those 3 points are massively important skills to have in pretty much any industry. And I think we had some graduates come in and kind of talk to us, and they were across. One was had gone on to engineering, one had gone into some sciences, one had gone into business management, one had gone into film and production. And they all sort of said, yes, okay, I had to do some additional training on the job, but that was either covered by the workplace or something that I could do while doing it. But the skills I learned, the way of thinking that doing that degree taught me, of how to analyze source work. And it's something that you look at online arguments and debates. I imagine you'd probably be able to tell someone that's maybe studied history at a higher level, or one of the ologies or something like that, because within all those fields of study, typically you learn how to interpret data, pick out the core stuff, and then present it what's actually relevant with none of the waffle, none of the. I mean, obviously you can tell I've done really well at presenting just the key important stuff here and not waffling. That's not stayed with me. I haven't practiced that with this podcast. To come back to content creation, you know, it's broader than what people just assume that you get out of it. You're not just playing games and making videos or streams from it. You're learning editing skills, design skills, network, business management, most likely some tax related stuff and finances, running your own company, employee relations, probably some HR bits. There is a huge amount of wealth of knowledge that especially when you look at like those positions, listen, they go, we need this much years experience. If you come in and list all that stuff, you're offering so much more value through the life experience. So I'm very much like kind of pro traditional study, you know, if you want to go to university and do stuff that way, but also go live some life experiences, go do some stuff, get creative, do some stuff, meet some people, network, have those random conversations with a stranger that leads to that, you know, fateful meeting or whatever it is, because that's all of that. It's not just one side is better than the other. It's all of it. So do a bit of everything, whatever appeals, basically. News just in. I'm claiming victory over Philip's warranty in that, I mean, it's not a complete win, but after we had filmed the last podcast where I talked about Philips and the nightmare of trying to get my steamer repaired under warranty, which was under warranty when I made the claim, but they then said it wasn't 3 weeks later. And I was like, well, it's still processing, so sort it out. After I recorded that podcast on the Thursday, they called me during my Thursday stream in the afternoon and said, so I have some good news. Well, actually, they were like, it's no longer, no, they called me up first of all and they went, it can't be repaired. And I was like, this is the same conversation I've been having with you guys. I'm pretty sure you're the same person I spoke to. You know this. And I was like, I'm prepared to get shitty very quick now because I'm instantly frustrated.
Meter was rising.
Yeah, it was off the frickin' scale. I was just like, no, look, it was in warranty when I made the original claim. You need to honor that. If you can't repair it, then surely you replace it. And there was a bit back and forth, and he went, okay, I need to go away. Had me on hold for a couple of minutes, came back and went, good news, sir, I can offer you a replacement. And I was like, oh, so you can do it then? Because I gave him a whole bit of like, if you're not going to honor this, I said, I'm recording this. I'm going to get you telling me and saying you're not honoring the warranty. You're not going to repair it. I was like, okay, I understand that you can't repair it because you no longer sell that model. It's discontinued. Fair enough. Well, in that case, it's either a repair or a replace, right? They had told me they were like, we can't refund you because one, you didn't buy it directly through us, and two, the warranty on it is repair or replace. And I was like, I understand that. That's totally fine. Fully understandable. We failed option one, the repair. You guys can't do that. So then we go to option two, don't we? We replace it for ideally a like for like. Because if you're not going to do that, I will take all this to trading standards, and this is me bluffing because I honestly don't think I'd have got anywhere, and I honestly don't think I could have been bothered to do that. It's just not worth the time, because trading standards will probably go, yes, you do have a claim. We'll sort it out within the next 18 months, if you're lucky. Probably. Don't know, but wildly differing. It was just, at this point, it was the principle of it, and I just didn't like being taken advantage of and being lied to, basically. Especially because, as I said from the beginning, I came into this thinking it was probably out of warranty, it couldn't be repaired, it couldn't be replaced or whatever, and I was going to be like, okay, I need to spend some money and get a replacement. And when they told me it could be, I was like, oh great, and it's in warranty. Amazing, happy days. He went away, he came back, and he went, good news, we can replace it. I was like, amazing. What are we replacing it? Now, they don't sell the same full upright garment steamer anymore, which was like 120 quid when I bought it. So we can offer you a handheld one, which is worth about 50 quid. It is a downgrade, but that's what we can offer you. And I was like, can you offer me one of your steam generating irons that's like 100 quid? Obviously does similar stuff, but it's a different product range, and they went, we can't, it has to be a steam. And I was like, you know what, I actually understand that it has to be directly the same product category. Fair enough. You know, I was like, at this point, yes, I will accept that replacement. I'll get it. I said, I still want all of this in an email confirming that you're sending this, because I never had an email after you promised me last time you were sending me an email. I think it was on stream, and I was like, Twitch chat, what do you think the actual likelihood is that they're going to send me this, or that I'm going to get an email confirming this? And lo and behold, they did send me an email confirming. It was it wasn't like, it didn't have the official header or footer on it, and it was like a hastily, like, it has been sent out, it will be with you in 5 days. Like, it was like a really hurried one that they'd obviously just scrawled and fired off. And then, yeah, it arrived on Monday, and it works. And I said, what do I do with the other one? And they were like, keep it. So I'm now going to go replace the fuse in it, which I think actually might be the problem. And hopefully it's because it's basically it's shorting out whenever it runs for like a minute. So it could be the fuse, but also I also kind of think it's maybe not the fuse because it probably wouldn't turn on. It sounds like there's something probably on the logic board cutting out or whatever and just going, and then the fuse is probably kicking in to cut power to everything else. But I'm going to try and replace the fuse, or I'm going to go to kind of like a ye old appliance fixer-upper place and see if they do like a flat fee of like, we'll fix it for 40 quid, because the new steamer's worth 50. So if I get it repaired for under 50 quid and it works again... Smart man. I've had Philips for a brand new hand steamer. Never give up, guys, is the lesson of the story. And don't buy from Philips. Their customer service is shit. And so's their warranty. Regret is filling me with the amount of Philips lights in this room. I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe for that you go through a different, but it's probably all to the same customer service thing, isn't it? So I really like the variation I can get with my Philips lights. However, their brightness is in its like light state like this, where it's using the like warm to cold color ranges. Technical term is leaving me, like the temperature color ranges. It's nice and bright. In its RGB, it can only go to about half the brightness. So it gets you on the whole like 1,200 lumens, and it's actually half that when you want to use the RGB stuff. Which means on camera it's very difficult to balance. And if it's low on the lumens, it can also then cause flicker and stuff if it's like a low. Luckily doesn't do any of that. That's good. But it's one of those things of I would have to have a different white balance setting for the camera for bright light and RGB versus that. Yeah, that's a pain in the ass. So I counteract it with like a saturation setting, but it's like one of those things of, I know those sort of off-brand lights that do the exact same things, like by Govee or Govee, whatever they're. Govee. I've got a load of them actually around my TV. Like Govee stuff, apparently far better. It seems to be. I've got some, which sucks because they're half the price as well. I'll just take off the label that has my address on it. So Govee, if you want to replace all my lights, I will happily do it. I'll show you the back, but it's a malleable light strip. Oh, I've seen really good things about that. They also do a tube light that I really like as well. My camera hates me when I want to actually show product, but yeah, it's a tubey thing. You can loop it to do words and stuff and everything. I asked for it for Christmas last year, and I was like, I'm holding off putting up in here because it was just after Christmas that I decided we were going to convert the garage. So I'm like, I have all these Govee light stuff that I want to use that I'm waiting until I'm in there to set up, because that on a wall, like in a weird... Well, I'll just have it in a wiggle, to be honest. It doesn't need to really mean anything to me. I've got a load of nanoleaf panels from my old office, but I used to have them in an LH. And something I really liked about the panels was that you could turn them on by swiping your hand up them. So I felt super cool by going in, and I was like, lights, activate, warm. So I'm going to see if maybe there's like an app integration where I can bring them across into one, or I might just like sell them on, or I might actually put them up in this room when it becomes Cubheart's room, because I kind of feel like from a sensory perspective, that would be really cool for him to be like lights that way. Could almost probably act as a bit of a night light, because you can change the set, you can control the stuff. So I might do that with him. I've got the OG nanoleaf triangles, and I've got the squares. Back to the wider topic at hand. Yeah, let's throw the fishing rod back out, grab the topic back in, which was exit strategies when we no longer necessarily want to just play games, stream them, edit, record, network, and everything within that. What's your loose string of plans? It's weird because what I currently do is kind of what you want to go more into, right? It's what I was going to say is kind of your exit strategy, or one of those that you have. But for me, I think it's because I've always looked at exit strategies slightly differently. I don't think I have one per se. And that's fine, guys. It is. If you're panicking, this isn't about like, oh, this is the thing every creator needs. This is just, again, I think the biggest impact that's made me think about this more and planning more is having kids. But even still, mine is super malleable and flexible. You ask me again in 5 years, and it may well have all completely changed. I'm asking you in like a couple of years, it may well have all changed. So let me expand upon this a little bit. So I come from a background in acting. And there's an age-old saying of actors never retire. Not because they can't.
even though in some cases it's not a you can't afford to. But it's more the fact of, for an actor, there will always be parts to play throughout their entire life. Like, for example, Morgan Freeman didn't start being a well-known name until his mid to late 40s.
It's like Samuel L. Jackson didn't get his breakaway role until he was like 45.
Yes, and there's various... Samuel L. Jackson has a fascinating life.
He's done, yeah.
So an actor's job is kind of never done, because you'll just start playing different characters. And I've kind of always looked at my life similarly to that. So it's like one of those things of, right now, I look at myself as a creator, not in just the content creator. I use creator to describe myself because I work in the arts. I work creatively. I'm doing film stuff. I'm doing acting. I have a background where I've done a bit of music before. Like, I will always do, and right now I'm a creator in the games industry. That's how I look at myself. Like, when people ask what I do, is like, I do a bit of community management, but I also do YouTube. I do client work that involves putting on productions in castles. Like, I am just a creator, and I don't think I'll ever stop being one. Like,
would it be better to say, instead of a creator, you're a creative? Because it's not just about creating, it's about all the stuff that goes along with it. I mean, a large part of what you do is creating content, productions, but it's being within that creative space as well, isn't it? Like, you're always going to be a creative person.
I flitter between projects. I took a very, very hard look, like, as we've been doing this podcast, of like why I possibly haven't been as successful as I necessarily could have been in the traditional creator sense. In the, I'm growing, I've got 100k subscribers, got 1 million subscribers, that kind of path. And I've always put some of it down to missed opportunities. Again, I'm the king of missed opportunities. That is for certain. But another part of it is where I flitter from focuses and things that grab my attention and wanting to do other things. I tend to be someone who fully bores into those and go, okay, I'm doing this now for a bit, which isn't good for a long-term growth strategy, but it's fulfilling for me. And I think that's how I'm going to continue to run the things I do. My dream is to have a creative space, which is essentially my own mini studio in some way, that can be utilized in some of my other passions, such as like acting or music in some way, but also be a hub for content creation, because I have always looked at content creation as an art, its own discipline in its own right. And I think it's only kind of really... Before it was like independent filmmaking was the arty point of it. But no. The whole thing of content creation is an art. It is a discipline. I think in 20 years' time it will have been, because I don't think content creation is going everywhere. Everyone always goes, oh, what if YouTube dies one day? It's not. It won't.
And the thing is, if YouTube disappears, which it's not going to, there would be a replacement, because something would fill that vacuum and void.
Like Vine died, we've got TikTok. Like,
when people always say, oh, YouTube's going to die, it's like, okay, well, who's their competitor killing them? They don't have one. There's Vimeo, and not to on the other platforms out there, but there is a reason why YouTube is dominating, and it is what it does well. It does really well.
Exactly. But what you will see as a counterpoint if YouTube dies is people will still have these creative passions. It's too ingrained in a cultural psyche now. There's too many people growing up with YouTube. There is so much more access to being creative as a life. I'm not going to say a majority of people, but there is that aspiration there now, because it's so wide. It's global now. It's not just the old days of seeing a film or going and seeing a play and being creative that way. It's being inspired by someone's, sketch that they made in 5 minutes and it's gone up and gone viral.
And YouTube and creators as well have positioned themselves in a way that they have replaced, for a good number of people, the traditional way that they consume media. Like, I see plenty of comments saying, like, I don't watch like TV anymore. I just watch Let's Plays on YouTube, or I watch streams.
That's me. And it's not even Let's Plays. I'm watching documentaries or deep dives
and stuff like that. And you go down a rabbit hole and you're like, I'm 5 videos deep now in the series. One of my like, sort of not doom scrolls, but like things to sit and go down the rabbit hole is to watch stuff like history documentaries, all the epic battles and stuff like that. I can be through that for days, like epic history TV and stuff like that on YouTube. And I'm not that I'm saying Netflix would do this, but I would have thought that probably if YouTube were to die, I think that probably a streaming platform is the most likely to try and dive into that void that's created and try and set up something within that space.
We're already seeing it some cases. Like, so for example, there's the platform that's a lot of the other documentary creators on YouTube have already made together with the subscription plan. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my life. Like Legal.
Curiosity. Yes, that's the one.
Curiosity Stream. It's been renamed, hasn't it? It's not Curiosity Stream anymore. But it was that. Anyway, it's that. It was that one where they've all collaborated and they put, like, you'll have things like that, or you'll have things such as Dropout, which is what became of College Humor. And it's their streaming platform. This is going to sound a little bit flitty, I think, my point of view on this, because, again, it's one of those things of, I don't consider myself like an artist in that kind of, that classic sort of, it's that sort of, the stereotypical artist vibe. But at the end of the day, my lifestyle is an artistic lifestyle. I'm cringing myself out on it. But it's like one of those things of, my mantra in life has always been, if I can't be the one who creates things, I want to help people create things. It's where a lot of my projects come from when I'm not the one on camera or when I'm saying I like being creative. And if I can facilitate that through people, that's the same. So I think my exit strategy is doing a more studio-y thing.
Doing more production,
yes. But it's also just being, okay, I'm no longer the front man. What can I do? How can I get involved? But yours is slightly different. And I'm sure mine will evolve again. Like,
ask you in a few years' time and see what you're doing.
Exactly. I am 27, 20, yeah, and I
love when you get to that age where you're genuinely not sure how old you are. The thing is, you think it only lasts a little while. It doesn't. I still forget. I'm like, I'm going to be 34 this November. Yeah, that means I'm 33. Am I 33? Doesn't help that COVID robbed everyone of a couple of years, because I'm still like, I'm just about to turn 30. Like, not that I was planning a big 30th birthday, but obviously, like, for a lot of people, that is quite a big milestone. You do some kind of big celebration that you build towards, or at least maybe a bit more of a generational thing, perhaps. Not that I was planning one, but I kind of still feel like I haven't hit that 30 mark, if that makes sense. Probably because it was just such a mellow, quiet affair in the end.
COVID is a really interesting turning point, I think, for me in my life, just generally. I don't know if I've shared this exact anecdote on the podcast. I've definitely told people before, but essentially, I made my hard switch into the gaming industry in 2021 during the second lockdown. I think that was February 2021. I was on a very different trajectory in life before COVID. I was still heavily trying to be an actor. It took me a while. I was trying to do it independently for a long time because I didn't like the way that agents work. And it was like, but I was also still looking for an agent post university. Being an actor, getting an agent is a big sort of step into opening doors for you. I landed an agent 2 weeks before the first ever COVID lockdown. I signed the paperwork and then essentially had to be dropped straight away. COVID became the hard, we're closing this door for a while on me. One of the things of being an actor is you have to be quite ruthless in how motivated you are to do things. And I'd already had quite a few knocks in my career post leaving uni that had set that back. My mindset was already sort of leaving that sort of behind, whereas like, I'm not cut out to do the hard push constantly all the time. I was also still dabbling with content creation half-time, full-time, going flit and flopping between, because I started that during uni. And it was one of those things of, okay, the world is changing right now. There is pretty much no work right now. To keep ramming my head against the door, I've just been given all the signs to stop for a bit. And then, it was 4 months later, Adaway, great content creator, go check out History Graph. Also, will forever thank him for this. Basically DM'd me on Discord and went, there's a position opening at Paradox. We've talked before. We've seen you at PDX Cons. Loads of people, the staff already know you. You would be perfect for this position because we need people that can actually use Photoshop and can create videos and stuff. Apply. And I did. And it was one of those weird things of I'd essentially been scouted for that job, and here I am. And it's led me to do this whole production side of things as well, which I never would have done because I noticed a gap in Paradox's market and then a wider market as well. It's just like, I've had so many opportunities. I never would have been an esports caster without that, most likely. Outside of like doing one fun thing with another content creator I know by the name of Skippy Effects, we did a Ko2 one, but I would never have been in front of a studio camera and hosted tournaments in an actual production environment with actual TV broadcasting things. Which is the moment I first stepped out in front of one of those cameras, one of those ones with it had its classic TV camera has the "we're live now" light. It was the most thing of holy moly, I'm finally using my degree I'd had in...
I feel that, yep.
Well, but it's the thing, I finished my degree in 2018, and this is the first time I've been in front of a live studio audience camera in, 6 years at this point? It was like one of those things of, God, that path was long, but I'm finally here. So again, I think it's why my idea of an exit strategy is so not there. But that might change.
Well, it sounds like it's not necessarily like an exit strategy of...
I don't think I have an in strategy right now. Is the thing.
Most people kind of like exit strategy is taking a path like quite radically different from what they're currently doing and veering off in that direction, right? Yours sounds like it's more of you're just evolving to your next form, which is more into the production, behind the scenes stuff, potentially less about being in front or directly behind the camera, but more in about, as you say, enabling other people to be creative and supporting them in the best possible way and stuff like that as a potential path evolution. You never know, you might use a sunstone and turn into something completely different, or a moonstone, you might not evolve.
To reference an earlier podcast episode, I am the Pikachu holding the Netherstone. Keep away from me.
That's me with Let's Plays. I won't change my format. I'm frickin' staying here.
I've heard this story a lot. You've spoke about it with all your audience before. Give us a little, just to round us out today, give us that insight of what you mean of yours, because for you, becoming a father is the thing that changed it so heavily.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of like, I think probably from the first day that I said to my parents, I'm going full time doing this, got your support, and they were like, yeah, that's fine, give it a go, let's see how you're doing by Christmas. And that was like 2013. It was a transition from hobby to, oh, actually, I can earn some reasonable money from it. Let's keep going. And pretty much you could probably every few months, every year, people saying, oh, are you still doing that? And I think it's more people asking almost like, are you still doing that? As in like, you're planning to do something else at some point? Like, is it still viable? Like, I mean, I remember the conversations around when me and my wife bought our first house when we were just boyfriend and girlfriend, when we went to view an existing property type at a different development. And my mom came along, and parents and dad, came and had a look at it, and I remember we looked around it and we were like, oh, this looks really good. And then my mum just turned to me, and it quite upset me at the time, I remember, but she was like, are you sure you're going to be all right, like paying for it? And obviously that's like a parental worry that obviously they're always, and she meant it from the best place, but it just upset me because I was like, I've been doing this 4 years. I know what I'm doing. I can do it. Like, I've got the money coming in. And I think it's also because they have this view of like, what if it all stops tomorrow? And I mean, the nature of it is that even if I stopped, I'd have trickling revenue coming in for, I wouldn't know unless I did it, but I wouldn't want to do it because I wouldn't want to then try and resurrect a channel after leaving it for so long. I'd like to think if I stopped making videos, the residual ad revenue from content would probably keep me going fairly comfortably for at least 12 months. It would obviously drop down quite substantially, but I think just the stuff ticking over in the background would actually still generate enough to cover basic mortgage and bills. Wouldn't leave anything else, but I think it would hopefully be enough to just cover that stuff without any new uploads for about 12 months. Maybe at a stretch 18. That's if I just like pulled the ripcord tomorrow and was like, I'm never uploading another video, never doing another stream. I'm done. Which I hope that is like not even the break glass in case of emergency option. That is like the worst possible scenario. But in a way, I kind of look at that and go, well, I don't have a pension apart from the state one that I get through like paying tax. I guess that's my pension fund, like whatever the residual is ticking over. Maybe I don't really know. That's something I really need to look into. Probably a private pension, start putting some money away into that, or put it into an ISA and stuff separately. But yeah, I remember that really upsetting me at the time because I was like, I can do this. I've got the revenue. I've got the drive. I know it's going to keep going forward. I think probably from that point, buying our first house together, I did start thinking, what am I going to do at some point? I applied and actually got offered a job at Creative Assembly back in, I want to say, I think it was just before Warhammer 1 came out. So what was that? It was like 2016. And yeah, I got offered the social media manager position that eventually Grace came in and took. I went and interviewed for that. The interview, as far as I'm aware, went pretty well. Obviously, they made me an offer. It essentially came down to, because I was like, I really want to be a part of trying to further Total War, and I want to, if anything, bridge the gap between what I see as the corporate entity and the community. And I think they very much still need someone doing that. And I think they've lost that, to be honest. I mean, they've got some new community managers in there now, but I feel like they've gone through such a rapid turnaround of community managers coming and going very quickly, which probably is an indication of how bad the culture has been there and the work environment and everything else. Obviously, they've also had loads of redundancies and stuff. I think they've pretty much gone through like community managers, one or two, coming and going per year for the last few years. And that isn't good when you've got when you've got a product that's community focused and you need that interaction. But yeah, and it basically came down to salary in the end. They offered, I think, 25k. And at the time, my YouTube revenue for the year was earning me about 32. And this was just before Warhammer 1 came out. The one negative was that the brand manager, who has now left CA, which I'm hoping is actually a sign for the better, although they very much they were the driving force, from my understanding, they were the driving force that got Total War to where it is now in terms of its very kind of set DLC development side, free LC, and how they bundled all that together, which has its pros and has its negatives. I think they were very wary of content creators still, whereas the community manager, who also sat in on my interview, he was very pro content creators, very like, they're a good tool that we can use, not to take advantage of, but we can utilize them to better integrate with the community and better understand the community's voices. And that's I think the best way that community managers within game companies can use creators as part of that wider community, but they're often a little bit more in touch. And it's obviously not a corporate suit man coming down going, hey kids, what's bothering you about our game today? Whereas, creators are in that space, they're in the trenches, they understand, or often are experiencing a lot of the issues themselves and the frustrations, and they want to be, most creators in that situation, like they just want the games to be the best possible versions that they can be. But yeah, one of the big issues in that came out from that interview was that they wouldn't have wanted me to do videos anymore on YouTube. Well, they said I could still do them, but every single video I did would need to be vetted by their HR. And I was like, I'm uploading like 12 videos a week at this point. You're not going to be paying someone to do that, are you? So I'm never going to have consistency, because I'll probably be chasing them up for weeks about approving a video. I think they ended up changing that policy, because I know other creators that joined them afterwards that still fairly regularly uploaded. I think they probably just set out guidelines, and it was more a case of, if a video gets flagged, we'd have to do like an HR investigation as to what you're saying, and more of your videos would be under review, and it may well get to a point where we would have to either request that you stop doing it, or everything has to get kind of assessed by us before it goes out, sort of thing. So I don't know how well that would have been enforced or everything else, but that also stuck with me. And I was like, I've built up a community of 150k at this point. I feel if you're not going to utilize that in some way, that's a big draw of what I'm bringing to the table right now, and a big presence of what's got me here. I think to abandon that and essentially say, thanks guys for getting me here, for getting me this job, bye. I was like, I'm not happy with that. And also I said, look, it's not all about salary, because you're a company that makes my favorite series of games. It's a dream for me to want to work with you guys. Any chance we can bump up the salary? And also I was like, your potentially biggest title to date is about to release in a couple of months, Warhammer 1. If I can't cover that, that seems silly. And also I know that that's going to most likely explode on my channel, which it did. So I was like, I'd need the salary to be a bit higher. And they were like, unfortunately, we can't go higher than that. We were like, there's loads of benefits and stuff. And I was like, that's fair enough. Didn't want to be the whole like benefits don't pay the bills. It was a really difficult choice. I remember going back and forth for about a week. I said, could I have a week to think about it? And they were really good. They were like, yep, take your time. I remember talking to my parents, and even then, that my parents still didn't really understand what it is that I do and all the ins and outs of it. They were still like, this isn't, funnily enough, this turns out it's actually not your dream. Your dream is probably pursuing what you're already doing. Maybe this will be better in the future. But like, I always think now, is, to be honest, if I did want to work at CA, it probably would be the thing I'd have to accept would be a massive pay cut, basically. But it would come with different caveats, working for a company rather than being the boss, less stress, hopefully. And it's still not something that I've totally closed the door to, but also with the way we've heard about like kind of the company culture and work stuff, I don't think necessarily, like, I think the devs on the ground, boots on the ground, I mean, they're super talented, they're brilliant people, but finding out how management has treated them and has driven them nearly to a very close brink, I think they're clawing it back. That's not a company that I want to be working for. I'll happily work with them to try and help them steer the ship away from the tidal wave that they're approaching or have approached. I don't think I want to be part of the crew on that ship. I'll be on my own ship, far away, having navigated away from the storm, take measures to actually acknowledge what's gone wrong, what's gone right, and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully I think they've just about managed to steer away from it. There's no point talking about what they're saying, or really even talking much about them right now. It's all going to be down on what they can actually do and what they actually deliver. Like, it's the whole talk is cheap, let's see some action, because that's ultimately what's going to matter now. The stuff they have started saying has improved and has got better. It doesn't mean anything unless it's backed up by stuff. That was originally my exit plan. To come back to the topic at hand, that was my exit strategy. I was going to go probably join CA or maybe another game company, but I can't think of one that inspires me potentially. I mean, maybe Paradox, like Crusader King, stuff like that, the grand strategies. Or actually, there is one further one, Firefly Studios for the Stronghold series. Honestly, their team's really tight-knit, really... Hooded Horse, yeah, they should be thinking about it now as well, everything they do. And also just there, when we talked to Havoc about the CEO Tim's kind of business ethos and how he wants to build a publishing development company, studio, everything involved in that. To be honest, it sounds like there's more options for what we're looking into. So yeah, probably I don't know if I would look CA. Maybe actually after all this time I'd be like, you know what, it's probably better that I don't. Because I think I'm always going to have rose-tinted glasses of what I want to achieve here, and it's just not going to be practical or possible. So it probably would be, looking at the likes of potentially Paradox or Firefly or maybe even Hooded Horse if I wanted to get into the industry that way. From 2016, head down, just content creation. And then, as I say, became a dad in 2021. And that's when I really started thinking, what do I do if I want to step? I think it's also because I found more that I was I want to spend more time with my kids. Which obviously I think pretty much every parent does. They don't really want to be going to work all the time. They'd much rather be there and present, but obviously you have to work because money and paying for everything and lifestyle and everything else.
It must be weird, not weird, but it must be an extra strain and a bit of a trigger mentally as well. The fact that you work from home, you're seeing your kids around you, but the work for you is... for example, it's you take those moments in your streams where they come in and it's great and chat love it, but it's also one of those moments of, even when you're trying to stream and things, you'll hear laughter outside and you're like, I actually want to be out there.
But literally this summer with the windows open here, they're out playing in the garden with a paddling pool, and I'm I pop my head out and look down and see them all having fun. I'm just that's where I want to be. And sometimes our oldest is 3 now. He'll come up and be like, "Oh, Daddy, are you working today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going up to my office." Oh, I thought you were here. So okay. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Bud. If money grew on trees, I wouldn't be doing this. We'd just be going out having fun all the time and spending lots of money to do lots of fun things, or not necessarily, you don't need to spend money to have fun, but you know what I mean? Just going off and living and having experiences which often cost money. I'd like to take them traveling around the world and go to lots of different fun places and do all sorts of things. My strategy right now is essentially I want to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now for at least 5 years more minimum. I probably want to have some kind of assessment of what I want to achieve when I turn 40. I kind of want to go, right, where am I at? Where am I headed? What is the real... I think that's going to be my... if we're still doing this in 6 years' time, ask me then to kind of reflect back on this. I'll do a TikTok react
if TikTok's still a thing at this point.
Split, yeah, if that's still a thing, if it's not evolved into something else by then.
Welcome to Bing Bong.
Bing Bong. We need to trademark that now. We can get it now. By the time I'm 40, I want to be hopefully in a place where this has continue to go well. I've continued to build up my partnership sponsorships, grow the channels, but just keeping the metrics trending upward and green and holding steady, rather than saying, oh, by the time I'm 40 I want to have 1 million subscribers. I pointless metrics at this point. I just want to, if the channel's still ticking over well, if the Let's Plays are still doing well for me, if the streams are still going well, if the partnerships are still rolling in and sponsored opportunities and stuff like that, great. If I'm still pretty much keeping the status quo in about 6 years' time, happy days. I would like to think though that by then, hopefully I've been able to perhaps invest some of the earnings into either some investments that have turned profits or are more long-term and are essentially planning to enable me to have a nice pile of cash when I choose to kind of fully step back from it. Also, that point is when I'm going to really think about if I have made a decent bit of money, am I maybe at a point where I can either branch out to doing, or hopefully by then also already branching out to doing more production stuff. I know we've started talking about a few things already, and that's kind of where I want to start leaning into as kind of to straddle both opportunities and bits like that, because that, you know, I think will open doors to pretty much whatever we want within kind of broadly the industry and give us plenty of options. Or be at a point where I've got someone else doing content on the channel. Like I never really know how that would go because I've built it up as me as Lionheart. So I never know quite how that would go. I wouldn't want to start a new channel because it's not going to work. But finding a way to be able to maybe take my foot off the gas a little bit, like that's kind of my exit. Like right now, I think getting to a point where I can upload 3 videos a week and actually be like, yeah, today I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to have some fun. I'm just going to sit and play some games for a bit. I mean, that's probably everyone's dream, right? It's something like that. But yeah, just be able to kind of slow down the pace a little bit, but more so to the point that then I can spend more time with the kids. We can, you know, do a spontaneous trip somewhere. So, I mean, I think I have like more of an exit vision than a full plan right now. Like the plan is probably keep doing what I'm doing and essentially try and save up a boatload of money that can be invested into other things that will passively make more money. Because broadly, I don't really want to be doing much else than what I'm already doing. I enjoy what I do, but if I did want to do something very different, I mean, we've spoken about it, like it's probably would be to go into the production side of thing and perhaps maybe be the front man in terms of like hosting or making those opening connections, being the guy that smooths over, does all the talking and stuff, because I kind of feel like that's in my wheelhouse. I feel like a lot of the time when I've spoken to sponsors and kind of had like feedback, they're like, it's your personality, it's your charisma that we really enjoy. And that's why we want to have you, because we know you're a very positive force. You know what you're talking about. You keen to research new stuff if you don't know about something. And we feel like you act as that kind of middleman between bits, which I think if we were to do more stuff together and more production stuff, that's what my role would be. It would be
executive producer.
Yeah, like I'd be the one to come over and like smooth over things if things aren't quite going right and be like, look, we're going to get this done. Or I'd like to pitch ideas and then see them happen, but not be in charge of making them happen myself, if that makes sense. Of like, I don't have to like telling someone else, oh, can you create this video where you do this? Like that even makes me, I get a little bit tingly and excited thinking of telling somebody else to be like, you make this video where you do this, because I'm
the foreman job.
Yeah, kind of. But maybe occasionally I get to wear like a fancy jacket. Weirdly, I had a friend the other day. It was like, do you ever like what do you like wear for? I was like, just whatever shirt and bottoms that I want to throw on that day. Basically, he was like, do you ever feel like you'd like to wear a suit? And I'm like, not really, but like I wouldn't mind having the opportunity to, because I think like there's not really any formal occasions, and I kind of like that opportunity to dress up a little fancy. Present yourself sharply.
I love a suit. I'm a big one, literally in my teen years, because I had to wear suits for sixth form. I think that's a very British thing. That's nobody's gonna.
Yeah, blazer and tie and yeah.
You have to dress how you would to work in an office, kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. There was a small part of me, was like in my teens or late teens, I was like, as a side job right now, I would quite like to be a men's tailor. I don't have the fingers for sewing, so it would never have happened. But it's like, I love men's suit fashion. I'm off to a friend's wedding this weekend. I'm so excited because I've got a new suit, and I'm looking forward to it. But it's like one of those things of, I wish I'd incorporated that more into my brand somewhere. But like, yeah, I know what you mean.
If things go the way that we're hoping to, we'll do a trip out to like, you know, Paradox office, and we'll walk in some swanky, get some nice tailored navy blue suits.
No, nobody wears suits at Paradox's office. Not even the CEO. He's there in hoodies and jeans.
We should pop in though with like, so here's the, I don't know why we've got a dossier in this thing, and if it's not Paradox, somewhere else, but we're like, so there's the production, and we got some nice cut tailored blue suits, pop collar, you know, it's fine. Just open at the top. We don't need ties. We just We just hopped on a plane for a business lunch. It's fine. Yeah.
Legitimately, last year I was flying loads, and I started dressing up slightly more for the flight than, you know, going on holiday where you'd wear like the comfiest thing to plane.
They say if you do that, you have a better chance of getting an upgrade.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, it was people were more polite to me. The fact that I looked like I was because also I only had like carry-on luggage. I looked like someone that was flying for business.
It's like exactly.
You got a lot more stuff from airline stuff. It was put it that way.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're not doing this for pleasure. You're doing this for business. And this is like there's a little like a psyche thing that goes on that you're like, what happens today? Obviously, for what happens if you're going on holiday for pleasure, it matters too about getting to destination, having a good experience. In your mind, you're thinking that's someone's job. They've got time is money. You know, how can we make that experience good? And you're like,
It's also probably where the majority of their money comes from.
Yes, exactly.
And so, unfortunately, we're really out of time and we need to round this out here. And so I think the idea is exit strategies are something that we think about, but they will always change. And I think you kind of touched on it, but never like put the nail in the coffin of it, is we come from generations where you were expected that you wouldn't be able to do this forever. However, I think in recent times that's changed a lot. You've seen like gaming grandpa and, you know, all of the people that are...
I think for us, it's going to be seeing our peers and the YouTube and Twitch OGs. It's going to be watching what they do and seeing where they pivot to is also going to heavily influence what we want to do. Like the second and third wave that kind of joined in, you know. I mean, like just a quick example, Sacriel, Twitch streamer, content creator, he's now working, I mean, they're working with like Shroud and stuff, and I think Break as well on their own kind of Tarkov, PUBG style.
Markiplier's making films.
So people branching into that element of it, I mean, they're still creating content, and I think that's what a vast majority of creators will do. You'll still create content, but you'll just, as I said, take the foot off the pedal a little bit and just explore a few other options. And as long as you can hold parallels there, and as long as whatever you need to get by and put a little bit away for savings, whatever makes you happy in terms of your finances, I think that's what the vast majority are going to do that are doing this full time.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not done uploading yet, so we'll catch you next time we upload.